Alright guys, we've got new reveals about various characters to talk about in today's video, particularly Edward Wu with a lot of reveals in his character profile and a few of the other Wu clan members as well, which is pretty cool. Make sure you watch the end for all the new information, subscribe for more, let's get into it. So the next volume of the Kengan Omega physical manga is out with this cover looking very badass, Edward, absolute beefy boy. But Edward Wu's profile reveals the following information. And of course, shout out to this mad lad for providing the summary of the profiles. This is what it says. Clearly stated that one of the main reasons that Edward lost to Ryan is due to the effect of Wu Xing's poison, and says it might have not been clear in the manga. So outright confirming that the poison had an effect on Edward, and may have been the reason Ryan was able to overcome him in the final clash. And the other major thing in Edward's profile is regarding Erioh's claim that if he was to face Edward in his prime, Edward would pretty much be fodder for him. The character profile outlines that this is just the subjective opinion of Erioh, and that the reality of this may not be the case. Instead of it pretty much says that they need to fight to fully understand the outcome. So you could take that as they're around even and that Erioh was just chatting shit, or it could very well be the case that Erioh is that strong. But Sand Vicious is pretty much saying, not really confirmed, just what Erioh thinks personally, but it's kinda undecided of who would actually be stronger between the two without actually getting to see both of them fight, which is a common trend from Sandwich throughout many character profiles when it talks about matchups. Like, they were close, they'll have a great fight, stuff like that. So Edward Wu's still an absolute monster, and if you don't know, in the manga recently, Gilbert Wu has been confirmed as someone actually stronger than Edward Wu, with Gilbert being the clone of Edward as well, so the superior clone. It also mentions that Edward's true motives, as Edward is still Gilbert, are currently still unknown, and this will be revealed fully in the future of the story, so we have to wait for Gilbert to do some crazy stuff, which I'm very excited for. The next profile I want to talk about is Howard Wu, who's actually the blood brother of Edward Wu, or the original Edward Wu, and his stocks have been rising with this character profile as well. This is what it says. He uses the same blade and style as Long Min, the other worm member that we saw unlock the advance back in Kengan Ashura, and someone who's actually killed by Faye, one of the Tiger Nico students. But it is significantly better. If Howard was at Mount Godslayer, the arena where the Purgatory vs Kengan tournament actually occurred, the situation would have been extremely different. So the big fight between Edward and his sides and the Kure/Wu clan would have been very different, meaning if it was Howard and Edward versus Ryan, Erioh, Wu Xing and others, that Edward and Howard would have absolutely stomped most likely, as Howard is pretty much being implied here as an absolute monster. And if you go back to the chapter of Howard actually fighting Gilbert, we get to confirm that Gilbert believes Howard was an absolute monster, and if he didn't get all of his power back, the rejuvenation, he would have actually potentially lost against Howard. And Gilbert is above Edward, so Howard may be on the original Edward's level. I'm not sure if this is referring to his swordsmanship, but if it is, it's absolutely crazy. But it says the following. Swordsmanship is described as peak of humanity, so Howard's swordsmanship may be the peak of the Kenganverse, even though he's actually dead now. But that is very interesting stuff, and he was going pretty crazy with his sword as well. So yeah, absolutely wild. Howard's stock's gone through the roof. Sadly, he's no longer in the story, and wasn't really in the story for very long. Also, one more thing to mention about Edward's profile is that it confirms the existence of an African Wu clan, so we could see them in the future, with it claiming that they haven't made an appearance yet. So more Wu clan members, potentially another monster, could be the last remaining lead worm person that was mentioned during the big meeting between Jan, Gilbert and the Tiger Nico, who knows. And the other profiles are for Fabio, Solomon and this dude. With these profiles not really revealing too much, apart from that Fabio and Solomon have the memories of the original Wu, however they don't actually have the same personality, while in fact Alan Wu had the personality and the memories. And the only important information revealed in this guy's profile is that all the former heads of the Chinese Wu clan were murdered by Alan and Edward. And that's pretty much all the new character information I want to talk about. Howard Wu was an absolute monster, and Edward Wu, before his supposed death, is still confirmed as an absolute monster. Prime Erioh may not be as strong as he was kinda hyping himself up to be. Gilbert Wu is remaining as someone who we don't really know who's actually going to beat, as Ryan wouldn't have defeated Edward without him being poisoned, and if Gilbert Wu is stronger than that Edward, how much stronger will Ryan actually need to be to actually defeat Gilbert in the future? We'll have to wait and see. But that's everything for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't already, make sure to check out all the other stuff in the description. And shout out to the Mad Lads who support the channel via the Patreon. But that's pretty much everything, guys.